Hello, this is everything I knit in 2024. In total this year I have made 27 projects, which for some of you may be a lot, for some of you it might be absolutely nothing. For me it was quite a bit, considering that I have both a full-time job and I'm also studying a degree part-time. In total this year I have made 2 pullover sweaters, 4 cardigans, 4 summer camisoles, 1 blouse, 10 pairs of socks and 6 accessories. I'm actually currently wearing my final garment of the year, which is this braided loop sweater by Other Loops. I think this is a really cute design. I knitted this in Knitting for Olive Merino and held this with Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair in the colour Purple Unicorn. It's this really beautiful saddle shoulder design with rib all over. On the sleeves and on the back you've got these beautiful cables going down. There's 2 sets of cables. I think if I were to reknit this again I probably wouldn't knit this with the rib. I'd just go for like a normal saddle shoulder pattern and just add the cables because I think that would be really cute. But I'm really glad I knitted this. I thought I wouldn't be a massive fan of it as soon as I've finished it, but I have worn it a little bit more than I thought I would. I think it's turned out a little bit too oversized for my liking, but it has been really loved on my Ravelry, so it seems to be a very successful project. I absolutely love this yarn. I have made another camisole in this same colour, which turned out to be slightly different than the mohair and merino held together. This is definitely a lot brighter and lighter than just the merino held single, because the merino looks a lot more greyish purple and this, you can tell this looks purple. I do really love this colour, but I wish it was a little bit more muted. I think the Isaiah soft silk mohair looks a lot more muted. It would have been good to hold that with this purple merino. The cables and the decreases are incorporated into the design on the outside of the sleeves. I actually ended up knitting an extra cable here just because the sleeves came out to be a little bit shorter than I wanted them to be. I don't particularly mind that. I think I could have knitted them even longer, but they're not too bad. I also slightly modified the hem on this. I just kind of knit to where I thought it would hit my jeans waistband, because I usually wear high-waisted jeans, so I thought it would look cute if it was just below. The pattern originally just tells you to knit a few rows of the rib and then bind off in tubular bind off, but I did the same amount as the cuff. Overall, I really like this sweater, and Knitting for Olive just make amazing yarns. I love their soft silk mohair. It is insanely soft and buttery. Whenever I put this on over my head, I'm just like, oh, it's so nice on my face because it's just this super soft fuzz. I cannot wear this on bare skin, however, so I do have to have a t-shirt underneath like right now. It doesn't have to be like all the way to my neck. I don't think it would be too much of an issue, but when I've worn this without a t-shirt underneath around my like upper back, it does get a little bit itchy and scratchy and I'm not the biggest fan, but like on my arms it just feels so soft. My actual first finished object in 2024 was this Ingrid sweater, which I think I spent 3 months knitting, so I started it in 2023 and this carried over all over Christmas and I managed to finish it in January 2024. I absolutely love this piece. The design is so beautiful. It just gives me like a cozy granddad's vibes. I really like that look. The colour I went for makes it look a little bit more feminine and just a little bit more modern, I think. So I knit this in Drops Charisma in the colour Light Oak. It's a superwash yarn, so it doesn't keep me quite as warm as I would want it to, and I wish I had knit this in just a normal non-superwash wool. At the time I didn't really know the difference between non-superwash and superwash, and I only found out because one of the ladies at my knitting group told me. In my last podcast episode I was wearing this and I was talking about how the sleeves are too short on this. When it gets windy or cold I don't get as much coverage, so I just get a bit cold around here and then I end up being cold in this jumper. This is more of a pretty look piece than functional garment. After the last episode I actually noticed that I knitted the sleeves slightly differently than I was meant to. You can see this part on one sleeve, the moss stitch is actually shorter than on the other sleeve. So the fact that the sleeves are uneven really adds to the shortness of them and the issue I have. I will do like a little video with a knit flip, so I will fix all of my knits that I have issues with, and this will certainly be the first one to go. It is bothering me now, especially now that I've noticed the issue with the sleeves. Like, no one has told me, so I don't think anyone has noticed, and no one said anything in the comments for my last video, so it's clearly not that noticeable, but I saw it as I was editing that is the case. Let me know if you have any ideas on how I can fix this, obviously, because this is in moss stitch rather than just stockinette, so it might be a little bit harder. This year I really want to focus on making pullover sweaters, because last year I focused on cardigans and camis and socks. I haven't actually knitted that many, I literally have 2 from 2024, but in 2025 I will certainly make a lot more pullovers. My first finished cardigan of the year was very long awaited and I was insanely excited to knit it. This is the fennel seed jacket by Handmade by Florence. When I first saw a picture of this pattern on her Instagram, I just fell in love. I really needed to knit it and I was waiting for the pattern to release. I even applied for the test knit. I didn't get in, but that's okay. And as soon as the pattern released, I just had to knit it straight away. So it is quite unfortunate that I do not wear this piece. It's entirely my fault. It's not the designer. It's not the design or the pattern. It was just me not gauge swatching properly or at all. At the time, I just never gauge swatched. I have learnt from my mistakes, but it took me a little while. It didn't go to waste. I gave this away as a gift, so you can see b-roll of my lovely aunt wearing it. I made this in Drops Daisy in the colour Light Lavender, held with Drops Kid Silk Mohair in the colour also Light Lavender. I just wanted like a lilac-y purple, maybe a little bit more muted, like a bit more dusty than this. I ended up with a slightly brighter, not very dusty, pale pinkish purple colour, which I wasn't a massive fan of, especially at the time. I was still going away from wearing a lot of black, so I still had a lot of black clothes and it was very hard to style it because the neckline was a little bit low, especially with my gauge situation. When I knitted that, I didn't gauge swatch. The sleeves were like kind of tight, body was quite tight on me. I knitted it way too long because I didn't realise that the broken rib would grow quite so much. Florence did mention in the pattern to be careful because broken rib does grow lengthwise, but I didn't listen. I thought it was gonna be fine. It didn't go exactly to plan, and I wasn't a fan of the finished object because of the colour and because of the fit. I think my aunt is quite happy with it, especially that it's quite warm because it's got mohair and merino and it's quite a thick gauge. It is a really lovely piece and I think I will reknit that in the future. Yeah, I was quite heartbroken after this failed because I just waited for this so much. Next, I have knitted another pattern by Handmade by Florence, and this brought back my faith in my knitting skills because this was an absolute win. I wear this cardigan so much and you definitely can tell because I haven't depilled it, so it looks not ideal. This is my step-by-step cardigan by Handmade by Florence and I absolutely love this piece. Because I knit this towards the start of the year, I think it was still quite cold, I got so much wear out of this and it was my only cardigan at the time because I gave away my fennel seed jacket. I've been wearing this to death pretty much up until I knit my next cardigan. It is stunning. I think it suits me really well. It's this really beautiful light beige. It's knitted in Drops Alaska in the colour 69 Pearl White. It certainly is not white, you can tell. My walls are like greyish beigey colour. There you go. There's the white comparison. It's definitely a really pale beige, like a marzipan-y colour. I wish Drops did every single yarn in this colour because it's absolutely stunning. My only issue with this is that it pilled a lot and also it's quite scratchy. You can definitely see that it has pilled quite a bit and it just has a lot of pilling on the sides and on the bottom of the sleeves. Around my neck it does get really itchy if I wear it for long periods of time, and if I get warm it's just a bit unbearable around my neck. But other than that, it is just so cute. It's quite warm, apart from the V-neck does not keep me quite so warm. I cropped this pattern a little bit. I don't think I knitted to measurement. I went to size up in this, so I knitted size D. I'm not entirely sure why, because I think I did gauge swatch for this one and I did meet gauge, so yeah, I wanted this to be quite oversized and I also wanted it to be cropped, so that's exactly what I did. And I think this is the perfect length for me. I love the fit of this and I love the sleeves because they're quite wide but they go straight down, and I also knitted the sleeves very long as well because I have learnt from my previous mistakes. I wanted my sleeves to be nice and long. It's a really great pattern, especially for beginners. It does walk you through how to do the button band. I think in the video you get to learn how to do these buttonholes without any breaking of the yarn. I think the pattern doesn't mention that technique because it's a little bit hard to explain, and I love the buttons I use because they're super cute. My next finished cardigan is this beautiful April cardigan. This is a design by Petite Knit and I'm sure you've seen it before. It is stunning. It's very classic raglan / saddle shoulder v-neck cardigan. It's relatively fitted, although again I didn't gauge swatch for this one. I did size up because I know that I'm quite a tight knitter, especially in drops. I didn't size up my needles for knitting the sleeves and I ended up having a tighter gauge on the sleeves than I have on the body, so the body is quite wide and then the sleeves are quite tight, which isn't exactly the look I was going for, but I again wore this loads of times. This was a very well worn knit by me this year. I also love the buttons that I went for on this. They match the yarn quite well, but they are pearly, so they're quite shiny and just pretty. I made this in Drops Flora in the colour White Fog, held together with Drops Kid Silk Mohair in the colour Light Beige. Together they made this really beautiful light beige with a little bit of marling that you can see. It's not very noticeable, but it does add a little bit of dimension to the garment and I genuinely just love it. The Drops Flora does irritate my skin quite a bit because I find that the alpaca does get very itchy when it gets warm. Like I itch my shoulders, especially around here, and they just go red. I think I'm quite sensitive to alpaca in general. The mohair obviously isn't as soft as this is, and you can see a noticeable difference with like the softness of it, but overall I think it's a lot more affordable and it is a really good option if you're not sensitive to alpaca or if you don't care like me. I still wear it quite a lot. I did modify the button band on this, so the original pattern by Petite Knit has 1x1 rib on the cuffs, is the same on the button band, but I ended up just following the tutorial from the step-by-step cardigan and just did a double knit button band because I thought it would look a little bit cleaner. I also have a cardigan, this exact same thing, knitted in a lighter yarn following the pattern exactly, and I wasn't a big fan of the 1x1 rib, so I think this looks a lot more polished and clean, and it took absolute ages, but I prefer the look a lot more. And my final cardigan is again by Handmade by Florence, and this is the Maple wrap. Last year I knitted the Robinson wrap cardigan and I absolutely loved it. I've been wearing it loads and loads. So when Florence came out with the Maple wrap, which is a not so fitted version of the same wrap cardigan, I really fell in love with it and just wanted to knit it. This is a drop shoulder design with a little bit more positive ease around the body and the sleeves. Around the sleeves, again, I did not achieve, same as with the April cardigan. I think my in the round gauge is a little bit tighter than my flat knitting gauge, and you can kind of see that around here. So I really should have gone for a size up needle or maybe picked up a bit more stitches because I'm not the biggest fan of how this join looks. It doesn't look quite so neat and it is really tight around my arms because I also have quite chunky arms. I followed the pattern exactly, and despite all the issues I have worn this quite a bit. My yarn choice for this was the first time I ever used Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair because I knitted this towards the end of the year and I already tried it out on this one, so I played it a bit safe because it is a v-neck cardigan, so I knew that it wouldn't be an issue around my neck. I just fell in love with this yarn. So this is Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair in the colour Limestone, which is just this beautiful light, pretty much white colour, and I held this with Merino by Majogarn in the colour Sand, which is just this beige. From far away you can't see any marling because it just looks quite even. You can see really like little white strands on there, which I think it just looks really cute, and I think this is going to be another one of my knit flips because I need to make these sleeves a lot looser and I also need to knit them longer. This has actually pilled a little bit, which I'm surprised by. It's obviously just those little mohair pilly bits that you can just pull off. I'm very surprised because I think the mohair would hold it in, and I haven't worn this that much, especially compared to my April cardigan, which hasn't pilled at all. Anyway, I think it's a really cute piece. I love wearing it and I love the colour. You can tell that I knit a lot of beige cardigans this year, so I think my goal for 2025 is to knit more colour variation in terms of my cardigans. And now let's move on to my summer camisoles. I fell in love with this design. This is the, oh, doesn't look quite so good. Good thing that we have B-roll. This is the twist loop top by Other Loops. It's just this lovely high neck racer back style camisole with this really beautiful cable going across the front. It's not at the back is just plain. I knitted this in knitting froll of merino in the colour Cloud, which is this very pretty slightly pinkish white colour. This was my first ever knitted camisole and I made a few mistakes when knitting this. I knit the size medium, which is my suggested size in terms of my bust size, but obviously the original design is quite loose and I wanted it to be quite tight fitting. I added some waist decreases so you can see there's a little bit of shaping going on here. That worked quite well, but it is a little bit too big on me. I wish I sized down for more of a bodycon fit rather than loose because I think it doesn't look quite exactly how I wanted it to. Also, I'm not sure what I did, but I do have a stain on here. When I was knitting it, I was dyeing something. I had it on my fingers and then I ended up touching the yarn and it just hasn't come out, so that's a little bit annoying, but I don't care too much. Despite the fit issues, I still ended up having a lot of wear out of this. Sorry, there was hair, and I do absolutely love this design. I might reknit this. I might frog it and make another one. It's a bit difficult to find a bra to wear with it just because you can see your bra strap. It's a really cute design and I think it looks really cute under cardigans as well. I do love this piece. The next piece I knit is Gwen Camisole by Garnogslicht. You can tell I knitted this in knitting froll of merino in the colour Purple Unicorn, which just made me fall in love with that colour. And the pattern is stunning, but again I think I should have sized down because it's not quite as fitted as I would like it to be. This rib has really opened up, but I also didn't gauge swatch for either of these. I just went for my bust size, and I don't think it's my gauge, I think it's just the fit. I just like camisoles to be very, very fitted, which this didn't end up being. With knitted pieces, I don't wash them with every wear. Knitting froll of merino, it's quite apparent that the pieces go a lot wider over time. The straps get quite loose, so they do fall off my shoulders a little bit, which gets a bit annoying. I do wish this stayed a little bit more tight, but it's not too bad because as soon as I wash it, it does cinch back in, and then next time I wear it, it just looks perfectly fine. And I don't really want to wash this with every wear because obviously you have to wash it by hand. I'm a bit too scared to put my knits in the washing machine apart from spinning them to speed the drying process. Other than that, it's a really cute project. It's a super cute design and I do love wearing it. My next finished object is this mixed rib camisole by Florence Miller. Again, handmade by Florence. I have knitted a lot of her patterns this year. This is again a high neck, boat neck design, sleeveless camisole, which I adore. I just love the way it looks. I made this in knitting froll of merino in the colour Soft Blue. On a lot of people this colour looks very dusty and grey, but I think on me it looks quite blue and quite dark. I'm pointing at my wall. I was expecting basically this but with a slightly blue undertone. I still really love this piece and I think it looks quite cute with my April cardigan. I actually sized down and knitted size B. I think by Florence's measurements I usually end up being a C. It's very, very fitted, but it's exactly how I like it to be. I don't wear it quite as much as I would like to because it is blue and my choice of colour wasn't exactly suited to my wardrobe. I do have some white trousers and some beige trousers. I think it's a lot harder to style because I do end up wearing these blue jeans or black jeans quite a lot, and I'm not a massive fan of how this looks with black, and with blue jeans it just looks a little bit funky. I think I'm going to try and incorporate it into my wardrobe a little bit more this year. I do want to get a little more wear out of it because I just think it's absolutely stunning. I have made a lot of camisoles in knitting for olive merino because it is my go-to. I don't find it too hot in the summer. When I went to Turkey, it was not ideal. It definitely was too hot, but in English summer I think it is perfect because when it gets a little bit windy it keeps you a little bit more toasty, and when it's warm it doesn't get quite as warm as in warmer countries it would. They are perfect for warm weather in England. I ended up knitting this a lot longer than the pattern suggests, and I'm really glad I did because I wanted to be able to tuck it into my jeans. During the summer I was really obsessed with boat necks. My friend Maddie, True Summer Knits, has come out with this free pattern. I think it's in pay as much as you want basis, so you can pay for it or you can get it entirely for free. I test knit this for her and I think it's a really beautiful design. So this is pretty much the same as the mixed robe cami, but this basic boat neck tank has a slightly different construction. Mine is quite fitted. I did a lot of waist decreases. It's honestly a super beautiful design, but I think my yarn choice wasn't ideal in terms of colour. I went for knitting for olive merino in the colour pearl grey, which is super beautiful and I do think it suits me, but I do wear a lot of gold jewellery, like you can tell here. It doesn't look quite so great with my gold necklaces. They kind of blend in a little bit too much, which I'm not a fan of, so I think I will over dye this year so I can get a lot more wear out of it. I adore the fit of this because it's quite high neck. It does have a very like professional vibe to it. It's got this beautiful folded hem. Some people have knitted this with an I-cord edge, but I did really love the idea of the folded hem. Maddie came up with this cute technique for a non-rolling I-cord edge on all of these, which is really cool because it's just stockinette and then it doesn't roll. I ended up not meeting gauge on the suggested needle size, but I still ended up going for that one. I think I was one stitch off, but because I wanted it to be quite tight fitting, I wanted a little bit more negative ease than Maddie suggests, which I did end up getting the perfect amount of ease on this, and I'm really glad I did that. The waist decreases, I think I did 1 or 2 extra repeats just because I wanted it to really cinch in. Also, I cast on slightly more stitches for the arm bands, and then I just made sure that it matches up when I do any increases and that sort of thing, just to get it back to where the pattern is meant to be. I just wanted these to be a little bit wider. I just wasn't ready to start full knitting. I really didn't want to go back to cardigans and jumpers. I was really dreading that, so my in-between piece was this really beautiful blouse #1 by My Favourite Things Knitwear. I saw my friend Sophie or Candid Knit on YouTube knit this design in this exact yarn, which is Sanders Garn Tinline held double in the colour Blue Hydrangea or Blue Hortensia. It's just this really beautiful, slightly dusty blue linen viscose blend. On Anne-Sophie this looked a lot more dusty. On me it ends up looking just quite a lot more bright. Blue used to just be my favourite colour until I realised it doesn't look quite so great on me. I feel a lot more comfortable in purples. I think there's a little bit too much cool tonedness going on here. I really struggled meeting gauge, so I think I had to go 2 needle sizes up, which is really surprising because a lot of people needed to size down needles with this, but I think I'm quite a tight knitter when it comes to larger gauges. I ended up not cutting off where the yarn joins at the back, so I know where the back and front are. Yarn is very much buttery soft. It feels a little bit damp at all times, even when it's dry. It's got this kind of rubberiness that is similar to knitting for olive merino. It definitely doesn't feel like cotton or linen or anything. It's just nice and soft and lustrous. Because this is a natural plant fibre, I ended up chucking it in the washing machine. And originally when I finished knitting this, the sleeves were too long and the body was a little bit too long and I didn't like the fit of it, and then I chucked it in the washing machine for a wash and it turned out absolutely perfect. It shrank a little bit. This was the first year where I started knitting socks. They just seemed very complicated. I was really overwhelmed by it. I decided to bite the bullet and I bought the Mountain Walk Chunky pattern by Handmade by Florence. I used Signet pure wool superwash DK. There is no nylon in these, but I don't think it makes too much of a difference. I have worn these quite a lot, and this is a slightly pinker purple than I would like it to be. This is a really beautiful pattern. It's just a really chunky DK weight sock with mock cables, so there's not any like cabling that you need to do. Slip stitch heel flap, which is my absolute favourite, and a wedge toe. I ended up knitting the second sock wrong, and then I had to undo it because it just didn't look good. So one of these was knitted twice. Initially, when I started wearing them, it was pilling horrifically. I wasn't even wearing it with boots, just normal shoes, and the heels were just horrible, but I ended up de-pilling it once. It looks absolutely fine. There just isn't anything going on them. They look perfect. My next pair of socks are the Petal drop socks, again by Handmade by Florence. These are knitted in West Yorkshire Spinners signature 4-ply in the colour Dusty Miller. I actually ended up knitting these off gauge because I ordered a set of 2.25mm needles on Amazon. After I knit these, they turned out a little bit loose, and I looked at my needles and it turned out that they were 2.5mm, so they sent me the wrong ones. They are a really cute pair and I like wearing them over socks, and I don't mind that they are quite loose now. This pattern was just so lovely to knit. I just went for normal 1x1 rib because I think she's got twisted rib, which I just wasn't a fan of for cuffs. The yarn I used is my favourite. It doesn't pill nearly as much as any other. It has felted very slightly around the heel, but I have worn these a ton and they are a year old. The next pattern I knitted were the Kigi socks by Yuka. I made these in Drops Fable in the colour light blue. I did the colour work in West Yorkshire Spinners signature 4-ply in the colour Marshmallow, which is just this really milky warm white colour. I think it doesn't look quite so great with the blue just because it clashes because it's quite warm toned. Initially when I made them, I wasn't the biggest fan of the Drops Fable yarn because I found that my feet get a little bit too sweaty in it. Now that I've worn a lot more hand knit socks, I think my feet just got used to it and they're not too bad. I think after washing as well, they've become a lot better. They don't pill too much. Definitely a little bit more than the West Yorkshire Spinners socks. I don't think I de-pilled these at all, and they haven't felted at all either, even though I have worn them and gotten very sweaty in them. I did really struggle with this pattern with the bind off on these. I don't think the pattern actually suggested a bind off, so I tried a few different ones and they were all just too tight, so I ended up doing Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off, I believe. This year I really wanted to purchase the 52 Weeks of Socks book, which I did, and the next pattern is from this book. I made the Oona socks by Karen Borrell. I knitted these in West Yorkshire Spinners signature 4-ply in the colour Marshmallow, which I also used in the Kigi socks. I was knitting these on holiday and I didn't really want to figure out the new heel flap construction because I think that was either partridge or some sort of textured heel flap, and I knew how to do the heel flap that I always do, so I went for the boring same old situation. But I do absolutely love the lace design on these. I've just been loving wearing these. I think these are my most worn socks of this year because I wore them in the summer with my Birkenstocks. I know this is a questionable look, but I really loved them and they were just so cute. I think I shortened the leg of these as well because I went for 4 lace repeats and I think the pattern has 6 for the leg. I'm not sure why I did that, maybe I did it by accident, but I have loved the length of these actually, so for all of my socks after this I knitted them to this length because I think it's just perfect because it's not too long, like it's not mid-calf or anything, but it's also not too short. I don't wear these in boots because they're a bit too light and you can see that they have discoloured a little bit. Other than that, I think this yarn has held up beautifully. They haven't felted, they barely pilled. You can see the pilling on this one, but honestly not too much. Next pair is again from the same 52 Weeks of Socks, and these are Erika socks by Anya Hoyman. These have this really beautiful lace motif at the front. These are just like pretty leaves with some floral on the side. I knitted these in Yarnsmith's merino sock in the colour A Hint of Grey, which is this really beautiful silvery colour. I think it's quite similar to my pearl grey knitting frolic. I also think this is a perfect dupe for Cascade Lunar Rock because I believe this was a lot cheaper on Wool Warehouse and they were on offer. They pill horribly, like you can see here. All of this discoloration and pilling is just from wearing them in Birkenstocks. So yeah, I would not recommend wearing these with boots or anything because they felt and pill and they are insanely soft and like the yarn is super gorgeous and slippery, but they are horrible in terms of upkeep. My next pair of socks is knitted in the exact same yarn and these are the Asterism by Yucca. I was selected for the test knit for these. I was really happy to make them. I followed the pattern exactly. There's loads of variations on this pattern because there's the cabled version which I have knitted. There's also a lacy pattern variation of these, and there's two different heel constructions. I went for the slip stitch heel flap. This was actually knitted toe up where all my other socks were knitted top down. This was a really cute pattern. I do really love how it looks. I fell in love with this 3x1 rib at the back as well. I think it looks really cute. This is the perfect length. They are lovely to wear with boots. The yarn wasn't my finest choice. It does felt like insanely badly. The back of the heels are just entirely felted and the toes. Also even the cable motif is slightly felted, especially on this side. I did struggle with these side braids to like not have holes around the sides and I have failed. I do absolutely love this design. I think they are stunning and they look very different, like laid flat to how they look on the feet. My next sock this year was again by Yucca and these are chamomile. I fell in love with this design. I saw them posted on her story. As soon as I was done with Asterism, I went for these ones and they are just stunning. I went for the most beautiful yarn as well. This is Regular Trend Shine in the colour Rosa Shine, which I'm just in love with. I think it's been discontinued. It's really beautiful pink with this kind of rainbowy marling that's like from far away you can't really see it, but up close it just looks almost holographic. I followed the pattern exactly for these as well. These have a short row heel, which I'm actually not the biggest fan of. There's also lots of variation on these. This is a set of two patterns. One of them features just this all along the sock, whereas the chamomile have these beautiful like petal lace on the front. I absolutely love these. I knitted them to the same length as my Oona socks, I believe. Yeah, since I knit these, I just kind of followed the length for all of my other socks. They don't match exactly, but you can see that they are a very similar length. The next pair of socks is again from 52 Weeks of Socks and these are Kaisla by Rachel Coopy. I knitted these in Cascade Heritage in the colour Lunar Rock, which is very similar to the Yarnsmith's colour. Both of them are just horrible for wear. Like both of them are lovely to knit with. They are super soft, super like lustrous and buttery, but for wear they probably would be better as house socks than going out socks. They have felted horribly around here and around the toe and just the bottom of the foot. The toe is just like solid. Yeah, not my finest yarn choice. When I looked at the pictures of these Kaisla socks, I thought they all look quite big, and also looking at the stitch count, I just thought they would be way too big on me. I went down a needle size and I know that I'm a tight knitter, so I thought they would come out perfectly sized, but they are definitely a lot looser than I would like them to be. They are way too loose on me. I also knitted the leg a little bit shorter than the pattern suggests to match my Oona socks again. They do like slide down my feet. They also aren't my favourite sock pair, but I do think they look super cute. I do love the lace motif on them. They kind of remind me of bamboo stems. They're really cute and I love the yarn that I used for them. It's just a shame that it pills so much. When I buy sock yarns, I'm definitely going to steer away from merino. On my feet, I really don't care and I just want them to wear well because I love wearing my hand knit socks. The next pair of socks were self-drafted and I made these for my boyfriend for Christmas and I stole them from him. He hasn't actually worn these yet. This is because he feels very precious about these and he doesn't want to ruin them. When he puts on socks, he does it really weirdly. He just shoves his feet and like pulls them. I see how he'd be worried about these. I did tell him that it shouldn't be an issue because they should be quite sturdy. I knitted these in West Yorkshire Spinners signature 4-ply in the colour Poppy Seed, which is this really beautiful grey. I am in love with this yarn colour, and I ordered another ball of yarn for myself to knit another pair of socks. These are just self-drafted vanilla socks, but I did a little bit of a fun spin where I did 3x1 rib at the back. I was very inspired by my asterism socks. I showed him a few different ones and asked him whether he would like the cuffs of his socks to be 1x1 just normal rib, or twisted rib, or 2x2 2x1 rib. He went for 1x1 twisted rib. I have the exact stitch counts and things on my Ravelry. We're actually going on a ski trip in about a week, so I think he will get a little bit wear out of these when we're walking out and about and like going places and stuff rather than actually skiing. So yeah, these will be cute, and I do love the colour. I think it's stunning. And the final pair of socks, these are Fairy Maiden by This Handmade Life. They are just beautiful lace and cable socks. They're actually a free pattern. They were horrible to knit because I actually went down a needle size just because I like my socks to be on 2.25mm needles. I think they wear a bit better. That's what I did, and they did come out a little bit too tight, but I think with wear they will be fine. I haven't worn these at all yet because I just wanted them to look cute for this video, so I don't really know how this yarn wears. I made these in opal 4-ply in the colour camel, so this is just like a slightly warmer beige. I do love this pattern. I just think they are so cute. And finally, on to accessories. The first accessory I knit this year was this headband. I made this in Drops Flora in the colour White Fog, the same yarn that I used for my April cardigan, and this is just double knit band. I didn't know how to Kitchener stitch at the time because I knitted this towards the start of the year, so I did a botched situation, like I sewed it together. It's really not great because I didn't knit it large enough, so it's a bit too small for me, and the yarn was an absolute flop because I find this so itchy around my head. I really should have used just merino, but I had no idea that I would react like this to alpaca at the time. It's too small on me, so it hurts my head when I wear it. I might give it way. Even though I have made loads and loads of garments, loads of socks and everything, this year is the first time I've ever knitted a hat, and I went for the Oslo hat by Petite Knit, which is just a very basic stockinette hat. It's got this triple folded brim. You knit a long tube, fold it over, do this sort of short row situation, fold it over again, and you've knit a longer tube, decrease, and you've got this lovely hat. I really struggled with the gauge on this because I didn't gauge swatch and it was just way too small, so I had to frog the entire hat, and I think I had to do that twice, but I ended up with the perfect size in the end. I think I had to size up. This is the Oslo hat mohair edition, but I went for the needle size suggested in the normal Oslo hat. I think since the pattern has been merged into one. I have worn this a ton. It's just stunning. I knitted this in Sandnes Garn Double Sunday in the colour Putty, and it's just this really stunning, slightly greyish white. It's a little bit lighter and slightly greyer and less red than White Fog by Drops, and I think it suits me really perfectly. I've gotten loads of compliments on this hat. People have told me that it suits me really well, and the yarn is so buttery soft. It's very different than the Knitting for Olive Merino. The Knitting for Olive Merino is like rubbery soft, whereas this is just buttery soft and slightly fluffier. This is just an amazing yarn for hats. I really wanted a set of lovely beige winter accessories, so next I knitted a pair of fingerless gloves. These are just penny gloves by Petite Knit. I already had a pair of this in Drops Alpaca in like a pink colour, but I just wanted beige ones, so I went for the Drops Flora in the colour White Fog, and I think they turned out really cute. I ended up going for surprisingly stretchy bind-offs around the hand. In my previous pair, they came out a little bit too tight and I really struggled like opening my fingers. You can see that it rolls a little bit. I actually went down a needle size just to do the bind off, but I think I should have gone down a few needle sizes to do that. I don't think I've actually blocked them, which might be the issue. I do love these. I wear them all the time. The next accessory I knitted in this set is my Sophie shawl, again by Petite Knit. I didn't follow any of the sizes for this. I just bought 4 balls of Double Sunday, again by Sandnes Garn, the same colour as my hat. I just knit the increases with 2 balls. As soon as I ran out of yarn, I went for the decreases and I just got this kind of size. I wanted it to not be too long long, I didn't want it to be too wide, and I think it came out perfect. It's my favourite scarf right now. I wear it all the time. It fits in my coat pocket. And my final finished object of the year was another Oslo hat by Petite Knit. I actually knit this exactly to pattern. I think this is actually the largest head size for the mohair edition. This is a hat I knit for my boyfriend again for Christmas, and this is knitted in Sandnes Garn Double Sunday in the colour Dark Night. It's this really pretty dusty navy blue, and I think it suits him really, really well. I got him to choose his own yarn colour because I wanted him to wear this hat, and he has been wearing it quite a bit, so I'm very happy with that. I followed the pattern exactly for the brim, because in my one I knit the brim a little bit shorter because I didn't want it quite so long because it just would look a bit too funny on my head. I got him to close his eyes and I tried it on his head to see how long it would come out, and I think it's come out perfect. It's got a little bit more poof than I would like it to, but I think he likes it, so it's cute. I hope you really enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next ones. Bye.